Hello and welcome to Yoni Art Fest. I am your guide and your host, Laura Hollick. Joining me here now is Trisha Croft. And Trisha is a healer and a high priestess who has dedicated her life to the goddess. We're going to be exploring sacred lovemaking and how spirituality and sexuality come together. I'd like to welcome Trisha Croft. Hello, welcome.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Thank you.
So how did you become a high priestess? How did that journey get activated? How did it happen for you?
Yeah, stepping into my spirituality and my path at a young age, I was very fascinated with the esoterics of spirituality, and I went into witchcraft. And as a witch, we look at, and witch can be, it's a very broad term. There's so many, I think all of us are witches in our own right. There's the shaman witch, the green witch, there's so many witches, keepers of the earth, and it's very earth-based. So diving into witchcraft, one of the last initiations is to find your goddess, or to find your god or your goddess, or the person that you work with. And so as a young maiden, I was off to find my goddess. And I didn't know who was going to be my goddess, but I was led to Egypt. I never had a fascination with Egypt, but I was led to Egypt. And there in the lands of Egypt, I found my goddess, Sekhmet, Isis, Hathor, many of them. And I got initiated in the lands of Egypt, the ancient lands of Egypt. And from there, I remembered my old lineage as a priestess in Egypt of many. I think I had about 23 incarnations alone in Egypt as a priestess, too, as a priest, and working in the temples. And all this wisdom came back to me in Egypt, and it still does as I take spiritual tours to Egypt. And from there on, I really felt the call of the goddess coming through me. A priestess is when she channels the higher power of the feminine, of the goddess, of her wisdom, and is then able to channel that through her body, her beautiful sacred portal, and then is able to give that of service to her world. And from there on, that's when I became a priestess. And I think I was my late 20s to 30s when I fully stepped into my power as a priestess. And it hasn't stopped. It just keeps going and getting stronger and stronger. So, yeah.
So you go to Egypt to find your goddess. Essentially, how did you know when, is there a bonding experience? How did you know when the connection happened?
Yeah, it was funny because I kept, just before I went to Egypt, I knew I had to go to Egypt. All the synchronicities were pulling me to Egypt. And a year before I signed up, I was channeling this warrior goddess and a lion goddess. And she would come through spells, and I would be channeling ancient texts, ancient wisdom into my spells. And she kept coming through. It wasn't until I got to Egypt and touched my feet on the ancient soil, and I stood in front of the lion, the warrior lion goddess, Sekhmet. I knew these ancient powers, they're so strong. She was already calling me before I even seen her. But once I seen her, I knew her. I knew of her, of many lifetimes, and I felt her. I felt what it felt like of the true cosmic mother Yeah, not the biological mother, but the true cosmic mother coming through me. And I knew the magic. I knew there was something more to life than just the physical, than just the matrix, just the 3D. There was more. There was the magic that was coming through that year leading up to Egypt. I knew, and I believe in the goddess so strongly, and the feminine work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can you
Yeah.
speak a little more about this cosmic mother?
Yeah, the cosmic mother is the goddess, and the goddess comes in many forms, in many faces. We all know this, as we know the goddess Kali, yeah, which is, she comes through in more of a, she's the cosmic mother of love, but she's also rebirth and death as well. She is destruction. So before rebirth, we have to go through death. Yeah, these goddesses are there for initiation, to help us in our feminine. The feminine has many faces as well. We look at this through the archetypes. So we look at this as the wild woman, the erotic mother, the slut, the seductress, the sacred whore, the maiden, the crone, these rites of passage. We know that the feminine has many faces, and so does the goddess. And the goddess is able to, the cosmic mother, when we talk about the cosmic mother, she's able to, we look at these parts of the personality of the goddess, because then we actually resonate with a part of that within us, and we're able to connect into that essence. So sisters that really resonate with sensuality, or that's their nature, or that's their archetype, they will be definitely drawn to the goddess Aphrodite, or Hathor, or Inanna, these sensual goddesses. More shamanic wild women will be more drawn to Kali, or Sekhmet, or Nephthys, or more the darker parts. But throughout our whole life, we will be drawn to all different parts of the goddess, or the different parts of the feminine. If we are going through a death and rebirth, if we're going through a death or a change in our life, we will need the Kali, we will need the Sekhmet, we will need that, because when the cosmic mother is there to help us on our path, on our feminine path, when we go through initiations, when we go through the rites of passage or portals, and you can't go through these portals by yourself, you actually need these cosmic energies, the cosmic mother, to come through to guide you. Or if we're going through death, we're going through, let's say, the valley of the shadow of death, when we're going through the dark night of the soul, we actually need the dark mother, or that cosmic mother, to guide us through, to hold our hands, so we don't go crazy, so we don't go. And I'm talking about going through the subconscious to the conscious, yeah, or those rites of passage, the depth of your psyche, when we really go into the death of self, the death of old beliefs, the death of an old life, the death of things that we have to give up in order to start to live authentically, to start to live on our quest, on our mission. We need the cosmic mother to come through, to guide us, to guide our soul, but also then we are able to give more of a service to our world, because we live in truth. Then we are aligned to more of the cosmic mother and the truth of what really is. Yeah.
Right now on the planet, I feel like we're in a rite of passage, right? Like as a whole collective energy. What is your sense on the time that we're in and what's happening now?
Yeah. It's a funny thing because we're going through such shifts at a really fast, rapid pace right now. You know, a lot of women have awakened, and a lot of women around the world now are the healers and are the portals of this light coming through. But I think the times are changing now, where we look at maybe 5 years, let's say 10 years ago. Let's say when we're going through the age of Aquarius, or going through the rites of passage, through flying through the cosmos. All the women, our kundalinis were awakening, and we were having profound moments, not knowing what the hell's going on with us, and having kundalini awakenings and sexual activations and women's empowerment. You know, and I think now we're softening. I think there's a beauty at the moment that we don't need to dominate so much in our world anymore, and take on the masculine role, or and burning our bras and things like that, the full activation. I mean, that's been done. I mean, thank God our grandmothers and our mothers did all that for us. But now we come into a new way right now, is we are now awakened, most of us, and we're still the last little parts are starting to still awaken, but we don't need to go into fighting for our rights so much. We still, I'm not going to say we don't, because there's still parts around the world that we're still fighting, believe it or not. But those that are already awakened, we're actually able to soften now, and to go into more of a vulnerable softness, where we're actually able to teach our men and teach our world around us. If we're really holding the mantle, or the throne of this portal, we're actually coming into a softness, where we can go into, I say, the erotic mother, or the bringing sensuality, sexuality, and spirituality, and joining them, and not being so harsh, but to actually teach our men in such a loving way, to drop the hate, the man hate, the harshness, but to actually, a woman is all about love. When we really tap into that goddess energy, I mean, she's harsh and she can be destructive, but she's also there with a purpose, and purpose is of a giver. We know our innate wisdom. We as women are givers of the heart, and when we really tap into our true roles now, is the giver of the heart. We don't just give it as a slave, you know, the women in the 60s, the housewife, and just give to everybody. We actually go into that sensual part of ourselves, to be able to give to ourselves first, but to give from such a pure heart, with an unconditional heart. When I say that, I mean with no intentions, just giving, and not expecting to receive either. When you can come into the portal of that divine source of the goddess, you will be able to just to give, and that's initiation in itself. As a priestess, as a woman, that's initiation, to be able to go into that part of herself, to be able to be a vessel of this light, and to drop the shadows of let's say, the shadows of what we were taught that a woman should do, or what we're holding on to, but to actually just go into that portal, channel of that, and and that That comes through spirituality and sexuality, because you can't separate. When you're working with the goddess, when you're working with these sources, she works through. She is sexual. She is sensual. She will activate the womb. Your heart and womb has to be both activated. Yeah, they have to be. You can't just work from the heart all the time, because it doesn't serve your full potential when you're activating. And then if you're just working the sexual or the sensual life force and not activating the heart, that becomes meaningless as well, or how can I say, empty. It can become empty. As a woman, we need both. We need both. We need the heart, the spirituality. We need we need sexuality, or the life force, or why we're human, enjoying this sensual being, sensual creatures that we are as well. And the magic happens.
When I think about Yoni, I think about like birthing, right? So there's like that out, something can come out, but also it's a space where things can come in, right? Especially, in terms of sexuality. And that makes me think about receiving, right? Like as a the feminine quality to receive. And it's interesting hearing about like that, the giving, right? So I'm curious, what is your sense on the feminine's experience of receiving, the receiving energy?
The receiving energy. Well, a woman is all about receiving as well. To receive, because she receives so much. When we look at the queen aspect of the feminine as well, I mean, look at the queen bee and all her workers. She's receiving everything, and if we can really go into that part and to be able to receive everything, because we receive so much every day as a woman, we receive everything, but to be able to then to give that with love and gratitude as well of receiving. But when we, well, let's go into sexuality, because I mean, we're talking about the Yoni. So yeah, we receive the phallus, don't we? We receive the phallus. But the phallus also then receives himself once he enters the gates of the womb. And he comes back to the cosmic mother. That's what he's actually going in for. I mean, it's also pleasure, but he's also going back to the womb, or back to his rebirth. He's going back into those lands of where he came from and finding a comfort in that. Is actually receiving, and we're actually then giving when we open that portal of the womb. We actually are givers. We do give. But I guess as women too, I want to say that's one thing we find hard, is to receive. I think that is the beauty in the feminine, when we can actually receive. When we can actually receive. Yeah.
So what do you think enables a woman to be able to receive? Because I think that something that, especially when there's so much going on and on the to-do list, and whether there's people to take care of, children, or, there's so much to do and sort of to give. And then the ability to receive isn't a trained skill in a way. It's almost like sort of trained. I think everybody wants to receive, but I think it's trained to, oh no, I'll do it. No, it's okay. Or, to not receive, as if like somehow that's a better behavior or something. And so I don't think there's many examples of really empowered receiving? Like how can a woman really receive, like to have her, whether it's her needs met or her whatever it might be, how can she receive? And of course there's like we're breathing, like we are receiving, we're in this place, there's food, there is so much to receive, and maybe it's the acknowledgement or the recognition, appreciation of that. Maybe that's a piece. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Like how can a woman empower her receiving ability?
It's a good question, and I think it takes a beautiful art to do that for a woman. And when she can master that, she becomes immortal, I think. But I think it comes down to, it really does, it comes down to then first being able to know how to top up your cup. And looking at your cup in a metaphor like here, looking at your cup, where is it being drained? Where's the leaks coming? Where is the water being drained out of your cup, right? So we need to have a look at, because women, our innate part of us is to be of service. But when you're really aligned to the source of being in full service, and being in that priestess container, you will want to contain most of your energy. So you'll be very diligent and very wise with where your energy is depleted, and if it's being depleted or renourished. Yeah. So I think the first thing is to and not to give because you have to, but to give because it actually tops you up from the heart. You're not draining your life force, because once we drain our physical body and everything like that, guess what? The resources, the only resources we got left is our sexual life force. So we start tapping into that energy. And a lot of women, that's where you see a lot, I'm too tired, or I don't have time for sex, or I don't have this and that. It's so I think it's really important that we look at where our energy is being drained first, before we actually start to receive. I think that's the next part is to be able to see where we're giving, and if we're giving it from a wrong place, or coming back to always make sure you've got your reserves. It's most important, because if we're empty and then we're trying to receive, we're going to become really needy. We're going to really start to drain, like really pull in whatever we can, because and then we're not really receiving from the heart either then.
Yeah, that's
we're just taking because it's there, and we're not actually receiving from the heart of going, oh my God, thank you. So I think a woman is the most important thing to receive for a woman. And what I've just learned and what I'm learning on my path at the moment as a woman, as a priestess, is how to receive from the heart. To really receive without no intention, but to receive, for instance, if we're looking at a man, what is that man giving me? But not at what he should give me and what I demand of him, but what present and what gift is he giving me right now? Being able to take that in your world, or giving gratitude. There's so much more, but working from the heart, I think, of receiving is really, really, really important. There's so much. There's so much.
So much,
we look at life at the moment, and us women, yes, we've got power now. We've got our careers. We've got this, our grandmothers, our mothers, everything's paved the way now. But we need to watch where our resources are being leaked and our energy is being drained. Yes, we have kids, we have family, we have responsibilities. I think women, we have a lot of responsibilities right now in this day and age. But we need to take a few things off our plate that don't serve us. and come back to source of what really serves us. I think
Mhm.
this is the most important part. Let's go back to your question about the change in women at the moment on this time. I think it's really important because when we start to take away all that unnecessary energy, then we start to align to the mission, true mission. We align. We don't need that dead end job anymore. We're actually going into what actually fills me up, what tops my cup up is to serve other women, or to be a healer, or to be work with children, or whatever it is, be a midwife, be a witch, be whatever it is. I think women, we're starting to really align to our missions. I think that's really important. I think that's what's going on.
So I think that there's like, it's very advanced to get to the place of sacred lovemaking, I think, because there's so much that we, to learn how to receive, to align with our heart, to, there's just so many layers to come into integration or integrity within ourselves, to then even be in the position to connect and merge with another. And so I'm wondering if there's anything you want to say about like what gets us ready to be in sacred lovemaking. And then I'd love to go into a conversation about sacred lovemaking, but really, how do we even get ready to be in that position that we could be with another in such a sacred, primal, sacred sexual way? How do we get ready?
There's so much to it, but I think a woman will get initiated into it anyway. It'll, when she's ready, she'll be ready. Her womb and her heart will be ready. It'll just open. There'll be a moment in time where she just surrenders, and she'll never forget it. She'll never forget that opening. But then she may go through initiation where she closes again. And it's like, and then she may find other lovers or other partners, not able to be able to go into that depth of surrender. It actually comes down to surrendering. It actually comes down to, for a woman to go into sacred lovemaking, it comes down to being able to trust her body and to be in her body, actually, to be in her body, not in here. Yeah. Because a woman, I mean, she needs that portal of the heart. She needs to feel love, to make love. She needs to open that first before she opens her legs, or she's not going to have sacred lovemaking. She's just not going to have sacred lovemaking. So I think the first stage for a woman is to be able to, I think, more go into trusting her own body. It's trusting her own body, and I would definitely tell a woman, I always do, and I always, a lot of my my teachings for women in my workshops and everything I do is about women's embodiment. Yeah, going back to basics and feeling your body, because if you know your own body and you know what you like and what you don't like, then you can actually articulate that to your partner as well. You can, there's so much to it. There's so much. I think it's a life journey. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a sacred lovemaking with ourselves, with life, and then in moments with another person, but it's almost like a way of being. And you mentioned surrender, which is sort of the opposite of our culture's productivity, do, push out, make it happen, and what all that. Surrender is almost like the ultimate trust. It's like, you know what, like you let it let up a little, like you let go, you let up. And it can seem almost threatening in a culture that requires so much doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's almost taboo. It's a funny word. I know when I use it, some people go, oh, like it's a bad word. And actually, it's such an empowering word. It's such an empowering thing to be able to surrender, lay down the sword, to be able to let go and let Goddess. Yeah, to let go, let things go. I know one of my initiations with the Goddess was one of my first initiations was the art of surrender. And it was with a partner at the time. And I had to release this partner. And I was in Egypt on the Nile on a little boat. And I felt it, and I was crying into the Nile, and I was surrendering him into the Nile, and the pains were so horrific. Goddess, how could you do this to me? And I was surrendering, and all of a sudden I felt the Goddess Isis's wings all on me as I grew my golden wings. And the pain left me. I was like, oh, this is better than the guy. This is amazing. Like, she was showing me that when you let go, there's so much more beauty. You don't need to hold on to anything. So I felt the beauty of life, or the beauty of the mysteries. And then as I was feeling the beauty, I thought, well, I'll just latch back onto him. Maybe I could have the wings end him again. And all of a sudden the wings disappeared. She goes, no, you need to let him go. You need the art of surrender. It was so much more than that, of just letting go of a partner. But she taught me the art of surrender. But it comes down to, and I'll tie this into lovemaking, but it's sort of similar. It's being able to just let everything go and be the portal, and the embodiment of feeling, allowing the heart to open, allow the innate wisdom of the feminine, those portals to open through the body, to relax into yourself, to feel, to be able to feel. Surrender is all about being able then to just to be, to feel, to melt away. Surrender is the melting away of becoming. If we can surrender into nothingness, but then everything, or the void, or the mysteries, or it's never ending, and in that void is the cosmic orgasm, is the wave of Shakti in that lovemaking.
Interesting. It's so interesting. When I think of surrender, or I even like feel into it, it feels like a death in a way, because whatever there's been kind of gripping onto, or an expectation, or an idea of how something was going to go, you can't control it to go in any particular way. And so there's a type of a death of an idea, a death of a path, or a death of a vision, or what you thought or expected or needed. And so it's a type of dying to me. Surrendering is a type of dying.
It is. And it's being able to die every time, or have those little deaths, or to be able to trust, to be able to trust yourself, or trust the innate wisdom of the body, to trust, allow the Goddess to come through. When we truly, as women, go into sacred lovemaking, and as I teach women in sacred sexuality, and I have women orgasming in front of me as I'm teaching them, or in couples, and this woman turns into a goddess. And I watch this before my eyes, and I know within myself, when I love men, is we actually turn into goddesses, because we become the goddess. We melt away, we surrender that part, and it becomes the portal, because we are the portal. We are the portal of in between heaven and earth. We know this in childbirthing. When we birth a child, it comes from heaven, and it comes through the doorway of the Yoni, and it's birthed into this earth. Yeah, we are that. And that's what we are in sacred lovemaking as well. And I see it on a daily basis with women and myself as well. There's so much to it, and I think us women, if we can just able to learn the art of surrender first, to be able to get out of the mind, to be able to get out of that fast-paced rat race that we're in all the time, and to be able to enjoy our bodies. Enjoy our bodies. Yeah.
Your feeling or thoughts on, like, there's the different stages that you had mentioned before, different kind of archetypes, and the maiden, the crone, and all of these things. And so much of sexuality is focused on the maiden in our culture. What is your sense on sexuality beyond the maiden, beyond that archetype?
What do you mean, as in?
Yeah, like what is, because our society doesn't present a vision of sexuality for women beyond the maiden. Of course, people are having sex at all ages, I'm certain, right? I'm sure they are, but it's not something
that's true. That's true, because we always, have to be youthful, don't we? I guess we have to be that young, plumped thing, I guess. And then when we come into the mother aspect of ourselves, we have to become martyrs, and we're stripped of our sexual nature, I guess. A mother to be sensual is deemed taboo. I mean, we're not even allowed to breastfeed in public. Do you know what I mean? Or women's having orgasmic birth is a taboo. I mean, it's getting more recognized now, but I mean, God, if you talked about that in the 60s, you would probably go into a mental institute. But the mother has such a sensuality to her too. There's such and the crone. I know I read a beautiful article I was just like, yes, the other day, about a lady in her 70s and women being more sexual as they get older, beyond 50, because we don't care about the body anymore. We can just go into. We don't care anymore. We don't need to worry about what it looks like or how it moves or anything. The woman, when she's in her 50s, she's empowered. Yeah. So, and I think it's a society thing that we're taught that we're only sexy or only sensual when we're young, when we're childbirthing, or because it's a maybe a patriarchal belief system. I don't mean a patriarchal. When I say patriarchal, I don't mean hating men. I mean a system. I mean a system, a negative system. Yeah, and unfortunately, poor men have been prosecuted in the patriarchal as well. Of the system. So yeah, there's so much beauty and sexuality for women throughout her whole ages. I have dear clients that are 50 to 70 and that are orgasming and juicy and plump. They're not dried out. We're taught too when we go through menopause. There's no sex after menopause. We just wither and become old women and knit and have cats. It's not true. It's so not true. It's I think we're more, because we're more as we age, we're more confident in our bodies. Women, mature women, we know what we want. We know what we like, and we're not afraid to ask it as well. Yeah, I think there's a beauty in a woman's sexuality as she ages, because I know when I was a maiden, I wasn't. I enjoyed sex, but not as much as I do now. It's because I'm more confident. I know what I want. And back then, my poor maiden, she wouldn't be able to ask for what she wanted because she didn't know what she wanted.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But Absolutely. She looked good. her breasts were crappy and her bum was right up. But that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's so much potential that can open up through our sexuality and our spirituality, just in kind of bringing it full circle. Like we've touched on so many things, and there's so much.
Yeah.
What is anything that you'd like to say about this idea of really being able to expand our own potential through sacred sexuality?
In okay, so potential to be able to go more into it, do you mean?
It could be anything, just
Oh,
that sort of the capacity, potential for anything. It could be the capacity to feel, the capacity for orgasm, the capacity to have life force energy, could be anything, the potential of kind of, because we're touching that cosmic mother, which is really like a
yeah.
womb of creation, right? It's like the
I guess,
potential. Yeah.
yeah, I guess for a woman to be able to slow down now, out in life, and to slow down and come back to the body, come back to sensuality, come back to sensuality, come back to the body, because there's such wisdom in our DNA, and we know this in our wombs. I know a lot of people that will be listening are healers and already on the path already. So we already know the womb has a mystery, and the yoni. I mean, we look at the potential. I mean, we know now we don't just have clitoris orgasms. We have, I mean, the mother of mothers of cervical orgasms, which shoots and opens our crown chakra and shoots us out to the goddess. We know when we're opening these portals, and each orgasm we're opening up portals within us, unlocking and stripping back the layers each time. I think for a woman, why wouldn't you want to go into your full potential? It is the most powerful thing, and I would say for women that because I hear it a lot. I'm too old now. I don't have a libido anymore. Well, yes, you do have a libido, and when we actually go into sacred lovemaking, that's when we become goddesses. We don't, pardon my French, we don't just have sex, or we don't just get fucked. We are actually going into our goddess, our beautiful goddess, and opening and blossoming. Yeah, and bringing in that creative life force to be able to create even more. You want to create more babies, more businesses, more empires, more houses, whatever you want to create. That's, because if we don't open up our floodgates of our yoni, we don't open those parts up, they dry out. And so does our creativity. You have a look. I'm going to look at the stigma of the cranky old lady. The cranky old lady that lives in a little house by herself and doesn't have sex anymore, or doesn't, bitter. And why become that? Why dry yourself out? The juiciness of the feminine. We are so juicy, and it's important to be able to bring those juices through, and it let's have a look at the potential. The wisdom in this, as we're talking, is to be able to listen to the whisper of your body, to listen to the whisper of her, because we don't have her for long. We don't have this beautiful vessel for long. So to listen to her, what does she need? Is she going through menopause? What do I need to be able to get back into alignment? Alignment of where, the most healthiest part of who you are, the full potential of who you are. We always want the full potential of what we are. That's what we're striving for. So to sexuality, so many, but sexuality, it comes down to, because sensuality part is embodiment, feeling, again, feeling, allowing yourself to be a woman, allowing yourself to be a woman, allow yourself to be a goddess, a goddess in all facets of your life as well. And that's your full potential, is the goddess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Super
Yeah.
juicy, super juicy.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we're including a link here where people can learn more about you, or if you've got like a free gift that you would like to share, let us know
Yeah.
what would you like to, where can people go further with you?
Yeah, so if you want to learn more, I'll send all my details, my links. I have workshops. I live in Kopangang, on a little island in Kopangang, where I do lots of women's juicy retreats. I work with women's sacred sexuality, sex magic, the womb, rites of passage, erotic dancing. I initiate women in the temples of Egypt as priestesses. I have courses on priestesses of Isis. Um, uh, what else do I have? The sexual priestess course as well, to learn to be able to become more juicy and more playful. Couples, tantra couples retreat, so much more. But I also have a free gift for all the women, and it's all about the rites of passage and the Yoni and the womb. They can do a lot of cord cuttings, a lot of rituals. I think it goes for 2 hours, so I'd love to gift that to all the listeners. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we'll include the link for that. Thank you so much. And thank you for
Thank you,
the
Laura.
wisdom. Yeah, the
Yeah.
wisdom coming through. It just feels like it's kind of like bathing or basking in listening and sort of taking it in on different layers. And yeah, so juicy. Thank you so much for sharing.
There's so much. There's so much. But thank you so much, Laura. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Blessings.
Totally. Total pleasure to listen to you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us here on Yoni Art Fest. I've been speaking with Trisha Croft.